can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.
Hey, guys, any...
You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Frankly Speaking Sports on a very, very special night here on Frankly Speaking Sports. Lots going on in the world of sports, but tonight we're going to take it easy, and we got an amazing show for you as we are going to go back tonight and play two interviews we've done over the past year that we just thought were outrageous. Not that they're not all outrageous and all great, but we want to go ahead and show you two great interviews that we did. The first one you're going to see is by former quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who actually brought the team to the playoffs in 2007, Jeff Garcia. We're going to have a live interview with Jeff, and then we're going to play the live interview that we did a couple of weeks ago with legendary pitcher who should be in the Hall of Fame without a doubt. Will be Tommy John. So two great interviews for you. I want to welcome everyone from Northeast Streaming Sports, from YouTube, from Zodiac TV, and so on. If you can do me a favor, go ahead, share this to your timeline. We're going to do a great show for you. We thought we'd do it a little relaxing today by having two previous interviews that all of our fans loved. And, I mean, when you see Jeff Garcia tonight and you see the excitement he had coming on our show, it was just exuberant and amazing. And both myself and Easy B, the great Buccaneer fan, were on and had a chance to talk to him. And it was a great interview back in, I believe it was January. So we're going to go ahead and first play that interview. And then after that interview, we're going to go ahead and we're going to play the Tommy John interview. So let me go ahead and get that going for you here. Thanks so very much. It's a great honor to have you on our show tonight. I've been waiting a long time, as you know, for this. And, first of all, you hear about the Buccaneers. And I know you played towards the end, after San Francisco. But the last quarterback to go ahead and bring the Buccaneers to the playoffs was 13 years ago. And it was you, Jeff Garcia. Talk about how special it was to be able to, I know you made the playoffs before that, but making it under Coach John Gruden.
Yeah, I think it was one of those situations where in 2007, coming onto the team, replacing a young quarterback in Bruce Gronkowski, wanting some veteran leadership on the field. Obviously, defensively, Tampa had known for their defense. They had a great defense, strong group of guys on the defensive side of the ball, and offensively, I think just needed some consistency. And coming off of what I believe was a 4-12, 5-11 season the year before, knowing that, hey, John wasn't going to be overly dynamic or explosive. We were going to run the football, going to try to have some balance, but the quarterback had to be a good decision maker and eliminate mistakes. And I think for what I was asked to do and my role that season, I think I handled it as well as I possibly could. I think that, what was disappointing was how we ended the season. And not just the playoff game, but going into the playoffs. And I think if there's one thing that was definitely a lesson learned, hopefully for our staff, hopefully for John Gruden, was that you can't limp into the playoffs not playing your best football. And when you rest players at the end of the season, it almost contradicts or works against what you're trying to achieve at that time. But that being said, I was around a bunch of great group of guys, with Derek Brooks and Barber and just, some of the guys that were on that team. Just a great group, great locker room atmosphere, great group of leaders. Chris Hovan on the D-line, and then you had, a good group of offensive guys, some young offensive linemen. We didn't have Cadillac that year, but we had, Ernest Graham stepping in and playing in a lot of different positions for us, and, just a scrappy group of guys. And, we competed. But like I said, I was disappointed with how we finished the year. We were 5-0 in the division going into the last game of the season. We went on the road, the second to last game against San Francisco. The starters played the first half. We're winning at halftime. And then we rest guys at halftime. I got sad at halftime. We lose in that game. We go into the Tampa game or the Carolina game, last game of the season. I believe we were either 6-1 or 7-0 at home, and we lose that game at home. And, we arrested about 10, 11 starters going in that game who didn't even dress for the game. So then we play the Giants at home, and unfortunately, they were rolling and we were stumbling. And that was the difference in that game. We had no momentum going into that game. We hadn't really played a full game in 3 weeks. You can't do that in football when it's a physical game where you mentally and physically have to be on point week in and week out. Once you start tell your body to take a break, take a little rest, everything else starts to shut down. And that's what happened. We weren't very sharp. We weren't as competitive as we could have been, and it was disappointing to finish that way. But that being said, hey, my 2 years in Tampa were a great experience. Obviously, the next year we went into some different forms of struggle. And, again, we're 9-8 going into the last 4 games of the season. Just have to win one game, and we go to the playoffs. And we can't do that. And, and maybe that was the demise and the fallout of John and ownership and why they ended up, doing what they did. And I was only under a 2-year contract. I would have loved to have come back to Tampa, but under a new general manager, under a new head coach, they had different thoughts as to their future, what they wanted to do. And so those 2 years were, great experience toward the end of my career, and that playoff run to bounce back from a losing record the year before and actually win the division, go into the playoffs. It was a great turnaround for us. Just wish it could have finished better for us.
Now, you used in San Francisco the West Coast offense, if I'm correct. How is that different? Explain to the people that might not have been old enough to understand, because I watched the San Francisco 49ers under, whether it was Mariucci, Walt, Seifert. I watched all those great offenses that you guys had. What was different about the West Coast offense that is different from today's offenses?
Well, I think you see, first of all, the original West Coast ball. You're going back some years, but, everything's evolved from the quarterback being under center to now being in a lot more shotgun formations and utilizing RPOs, run pass option type situations, a lot more reads where they're taking place at the line of scrimmage as far as really managing the game at the line of scrimmage. I think the original West Coast offense was kind of like call it and run it. And guys like John Gruden really started to break it down and repiece it together to where they wanted to create better options if they saw a defense that wasn't the right defense for the original play call. So that's where I think John was great at the mental aspect of the game, preparing quarterbacks to really handle the game at the line of scrimmage, be a coach on the field. Hey, if the look doesn't look right for this play, then you have the keys to make the change at the line of scrimmage. Well, it's just continued to evolve. I mean, guys like Andy Reid, who was basically from the lineage of Holmgren, who was from the Walsh tree, and that's what Mariucci came out of, the Holmgren kind of tree. But again, it all started, it started with Walsh. I'm sure it started above Walsh with his experience in Cincinnati originally. But, these guys have kind of put their own little spin on it. Even Shanahan is an example of a guy coming from originally a West Coast system that has kind of evolved into his own kind of thing. And now there's a lot of similar concepts and maybe a lot of similar verbiage, but these coaches have put their own little spin on it. Andy Reid, he likes to attack down the field. He wants to create matchup opportunities versus safeties and put them in a bind and high-low safeties and really get the big strike. Whereas John Gruden wanted to come in and show you multiple formations, multiple personnel groups, always changing, always moving and shifting and moving people all over the field. Well, teams would just go, okay, you can go ahead and move all you want. We're going to just sit here and zone. We won't end up blitzing. We won't end up giving you that man-to-man because we don't want to run all over the field with you. We'll just line up and let you do what you're going to do, and then we'll play football. And so, that was kind of just how teams would face us in Tampa. But, these guys have done a great job of just evolving the game. I think they take a lot of examples out of the collegiate game because that's where quarterbacks are really being groomed from high school to college. Yeah. They're all running spread-style offenses. They're all in shotgun formation. Quarterbacks, I think, are more athletic on a whole today than what they were 15, 20 years ago. And so you're evolving the game to kind of match their skill set as well. Now, you have a guy in Tampa who has been the greatest player to play within the pocket and still continues to do that and showcase that. And it works for him. And they've done a great job out there in Tampa this year of utilizing his skill set, his knowledge of the game, and him being such a great leader and just what he expects out of himself kind of raises the level of play around him, and what those guys expect out of themselves starts to be more and more and higher, and that's what a great leader does, and he's one of the best.
Now, you played back in a time when they didn't protect the quarterback like they protect him today. And, you were one of those gutsy, go out, dive, fiery type guys. I mean, do you wish they had the rules they had today back then when you were playing?
Not really. I actually kind of get a little pissed off at how the rules are soft these days. I just think that this is a gladiator sport. There's no way of taking contact out of it. It is what it is. There's going to be collisions. There's going to be hits, and it's decisions that are made within a split second. To tell a defensive back to alter his path when he's trying to break up a throw, break up a play, knock the ball loose from a receiver is ridiculous. To tell a D lineman who's fighting through an offensive lineman's block and hold at times, being held, and he's scrapping and scratching and clawing his way to the quarterback, and then he's got to hit him above the waist, below the helmet, get his head out of the way, make sure he doesn't hit him too late. All these things, and just like you're asking beasts of athletes to control their just like they're fighting, they're passionate, and they're just want to destroy people, and then you're trying to put a cap on it. It doesn't work that way. It's not that easy, and I think that puts people in position to get injured as well. Now, I get it. Hey, the speed of the game has continued to evolve. Like, you think, how can they get any faster? How can they get any bigger? How can they get any stronger? And they keep doing it. They keep growing. They keep getting faster. It's amazing that the speed. So, it's almost like, how are they going to change the game? And part of my thought process is having played in the Canadian Football League where you have a wider field, you have a longer field, you have more space and more maybe less impact because there's more space at times. It doesn't mean that they're not hitting as hard and that there aren't the collisions as well. There are, but you have more room to work with. When this game was originally built back in the early 1900s, it was a bunch of slow little guys running around the field, and so 100 yards of length and 52 yards of width seemed like a lot of room. It's not a lot of room anymore, just like the NBA basketball players have outgrown the court. You could put it up to 11-foot rim, get it wider, longer, because they're covering ground and space so fast. And maybe that's an answer down the road. Maybe you can't lengthen builds because stadiums are already built, but maybe you can widen them an extra 5 yards, create a little bit more space. But as far as the protection of the player, hey, we sign up for this game knowing that we're going to get our bell rung, we're going to get the crap knocked out of us, and that's what we love about it. Hey, nobody wants to see anybody get injured, but look what you see now. You see players, defensive players, going at the knees of offensive players, which is almost worse than taking a shot up top. When they hit these guys and they're not ready for it, when they're making a catch and start to turn, and instead of thinking a guy's going to hit them up high, they're hitting them down low because deep don't want to get called for a legal hit to the face or a spearing or whatever it may be. And now guys are taking blows to the knees that those are more costly at times than anything else. I mean, it's just, it's a fine line. It's hard to really, I just don't like all the rule changes. I'm old school. I think a lot of us are old school. I think a lot of us realize that, hey, this game is brutal in a lot of ways. It's, like I said, it's the modern day gladiator, so to speak. Hey, we're in an arena putting on a show for fans, and fans want to, it's almost like, hey, they expect to see violence out there on the field. That's what it is. And when quarterbacks are getting, their guys are getting flagged for just basically pushing the quarterback down, it's just not right,
Yeah. Now, you were a tough player. I know that. I watched you. Seen you get hit. I've seen you get hit hard. Come back. I got to ask you this question. Somebody that I knew pretty well that knew you, an inside source, said that you once played a football game, and I find it's hard to believe. That's why I want to ask you, with a broken back. Is that true?
Well, I did. I had some slight fractures in my back in my season in Tampa. It was the Washington Redskin game. I took a shot in the back, and the small little bones off of the spine, I fractured a couple of those. And so, there was nothing to do about it other than supposedly rest. But, part of that game I missed. They took me out. I actually went back into the game late in the game. We ended up winning the game, but the next week I was back in playing again. So that's something that, I wasn't going to be held out, man. It was important for me to be out there on the field, and I felt like if I could go, I played with a broken rib, and that was probably one of the most uncomfortable things to deal with. But, if I could suck it up and throw the ball, I was going to be out there playing for my team. So
it's a different game. Now, let me ask you this. Coming in this weekend, do you still follow the NFL a lot, Jeff?
I do. I actually do work for the 49ers, so I'm back involved with them. I do some TV pre- and post-game work with NBC Sports Bay Area. So I live in San Diego, but I go up to the Bay Area on the weekends for the 49er games, and we do our show with a few different ex-players that played with the Niners at one time. And so I enjoy that. So that kind of keeps me in tune and especially watching them. But I take part in, watching all the guys. I like, and I enjoy it. My boys, all my kids, actually, all four of them. My oldest daughter was born in Tampa. So she's really excited about the Bucks. I mean, she kind of affiliates herself with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because that's where she was born.
Right.
And, and so she's excited about them moving on. And, so, hey, they're all enjoying watching it. They're into it. And I enjoy watching games with them so we can talk about it. And they don't like when I stop and rewind and try to tell them why a quarterback made a read or did this and did that. They're like, Dad, stop rewinding. I'm like, hey, I'm just trying to help you learn. This is my daughter, Preston. She was born So she was born in 2008, the season after the 2007 season, in between my 07 and 08 season there in Tampa. And, like I said, there were a lot of blessings being out there, part of the team. But, yeah, I pay attention. And, I love the old guys. I felt like I was one of those quarterbacks that could have played into his 40s. And for whatever reason, it didn't end up happening like that. I had a blessed career. I played a long time. But I felt like I was still scrapping. I was still ready to go. But, you need the team to have some interest in you. And maybe it just didn't happen then. I did go to Houston at 41, but I wasn't on the field playing as much as I was just there in a support type of role. But I love seeing, Brady out there battling, Breeze out there battling. Great to see. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is younger, but, hey, he's had a lot of great years in the NFL. And so it's great to see these wily old vets, still pounding and still making it happen and showing the young guys how to do it.
Now, you had some unbelievable offensive weapons when you were in San Francisco. Have you ever, and you played a long time in the NFL, but have you ever seen this good of an offense that's in Tampa Bay been assembled?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about names that are highly recognizable, obviously Evans is still an elite receiver, top guy. I think Antonio is still finding his way in a sense, but he's got that explosiveness. And then Gronk is so dependable for Tom. They're all on the same page. They know what each other's thinking and what they're going to do. And when they have matchup opportunities, he takes advantage of it, And then, it's too bad that they lost O.J. Howard early in the season, but there's other guys that have stepped in and stepped up. And, yeah, the guy definitely has some weapons to work with. And, he's got a great coach. I think Bruce Arians understands the game extremely well. He understands how to attack defenses and attack down the field. And it's something that's really started to kind of really come together at the right time. They obviously were saying a lot of things early in the season, like, hey, it's not Tom's style of offense. He's used to more motions and shifts and getting a better read on the defense, and Arians is more stagnant and whatever. Hey, I think they've ironed out some of those differences and they've worked it out, and they're playing their best football right now, which is what counts. And that's the key, going into a tough Green Bay environment this weekend against a top-notch offense and a pretty good defense, a good running game. Hey, you're going to have to be clicking on all cylinders and eliminate mistakes and be good with the football and ball control, all those things, because, hey, they're extremely explosive on the other side of the ball. But, hey, Tom knows how to handle those environments, and he's used to the cold. That's nothing new for him, and I think it's going to be a great game, a great showdown, man.
Yeah, now, talk about your first time ever playing at Lambeau. Do you remember it?
I actually do. The first time I ever played out there was an NFC wild card game. It was my third year in San Fran. We had a pretty damn good team. We finished 12-4, but we were behind the Rams, who were either 14-2 or 13-3 that year. So we got the wild card at 12-4 and had to go on the road and play in Green Bay, Lambeau, in January. And it was the frozen tundra, man. And it was a great game. And really, you talk about a game of inches. I had a slant and go to Terrell Owens on the right side of the field from about the 40-yard line. And he beat the DB. And the throw was about 2 inches short, man. I mean, he was going to catch it, but it was just short enough for the DB to catch up and get one hand out there. He swiped, he reached, swiped with one hand. He deflected it. The intercepted at the goal line. Had we scored right there, we would have taken the lead. And this was into the fourth quarter. And, like I said, it was a great game, but a game of inches. The first play of the game, Gilbert, big old nose guard, nose tackle for the Green Bay Packers. Gilbert Brown, I believe it was. He must have weighed about 350. We ran a double seam post, and like I said, it's like 6 degrees outside. We run a double seam post. They're in a coverage that I'm not going to get the post throw, so I'm looking to the tight end on a 10-yard out. Well, covered up. I end up holding on to it. Gilbert Brown, you talk about protecting the quarterbacks. Gilbert Brown puts his helmet under my chin, lifts me off the ground, and power drives me into the frozen turf. The only thing that can give is my chin. I have obviously all of this here now, but you'd see the scar. The first play of the game, I'm gashed. I'm bleeding down my neck, my jersey. I required stitches after the game, but hell, had to get up and keep plugging along. But that was my wake up moment in Green Bay, first play of the game, the playoff game.
Brian, do you have any questions you want to ask Jeff?
I was just wondering, Jeff, what can a player like you who just would play in Lambeau in the cold like that once in a while, can they get used to playing in the cold like that?
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment, At the end of the day, hey, both teams have to play in it. It's not going to be comfortable for either team. Even though they're used to the environment a little bit more, you still don't like it, even if you live in it. Mm-hmm. So I think guys are going to be so jacked up at the opportunity. I mean, Tampa being a lot of these guys, obviously first time in the playoffs for so many of these guys that were drafted by the Bucs, and just fired up, excited, and that adrenaline really takes over. You'll go out in pregame, you'll feel it out, see what sort of layers you need, or if you want to just tough it out and go without it, without a long sleeve, you'll figure it out. But hey, sidelines, they got the heaters going, the benches are heated, you have heat packs in your hands. I mean, there are plenty of ways to somewhat stay warm when you're not on the field. And when you're on the field, you're moving, man. You can't think about it. You can't worry about it. And guys just got to figure it out. They got to be mentally tougher than that. And, I don't think this will be a problem for them come this weekend.
Okay.
The main thing I think is like, hey, adjusting to the footing, right? You got to get out there, adjust to the footing. What's the footing like? Yeah, the field is heated underneath. So is it going to create, hey, are there going to be some soft, muddy patches, areas if there's snow or whatever that's melted, whatever the case may be. So getting an idea of what sort of cleat bottom you're going to wear, what sort of footing you need to have, the gloves that, hey, are they going to be good for me in this cold weather, or do I need to try something different? But you better figure that out in your pregame so that you come out, come game time, you're not thinking about it anymore.
Yeah, Larry and I talked earlier about how Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't throw a lot of interceptions, and Tom Brady, really not that many either. But how the cold will affect the ball goes off receivers' hands because of just the weather situation. Ball's slippery and stuff, but that definitely can lead into turnovers.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's where a quarterback just needs to understand, hey, how much zip do I need to put on a ball? Try to make a more catchable ball in certain situations, especially shallow crossing route where guys are coming over the middle and that ball is popping up on them all of a sudden. Hey, you may want to take a little bit off of it, not put as much on it so that it's not surprising them in any way, because those are those balls that now they're up in the air. There's linebackers, there's safeties, there's everybody kind of around right in that middle area. And so, hey, like I said, these quarterbacks have been through it many a times. Tom, hey, has only known cold weather for 19 of the 20 years or 20 of the 21, however many years he's been playing now. All he knew was cold weather at this time of the year. So he knows how to operate in it. And, just as long as he doesn't get caught taking air out of the ball, he'll be all right.
All right.
Now, a couple more questions before we let you run, Jeff. When you see a former team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or even the San Francisco 49ers last year, and one of your former teams doing well, like the Bucs, the 49ers made the Super Bowl last year, the Bucs are one game away. As a former player of that team, do you feel good about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I even got my name mentioned a couple of times just because, it was the first time the Bucs had been back to the playoffs since I was the quarterback of the team. So it kind of resurfaced me a little bit. But no, I am. I think there's a definite pride, like the Eagles winning the Super Bowl back a few years ago, having spent a year with the Philadelphia Eagles. There's a sense of understanding what it means to that city when teams are able to reach that pinnacle, reach that top. And so you're excited for the city more than anything, the fans more than anything, and obviously you're happy for the organization. Obviously this can be a first ever with the NFL if Tampa wins and goes on to Super Bowl to be a host city and host team in that sort of way. It's just too bad that the fans can't be in the stands like they normally could in a normal season, because that would be awesome. But to see Tampa still in it, to see them plugging away, to see what they've gone through, all these years of attrition, basically, that the fans haven't had a whole lot to cheer about. And they finally got the GOAT and got some guys that can make it happen. And, hey, everybody started believing and jumping on board, and that's what it takes. It takes a team effort, and it takes great leadership. And it starts from the top with Coach Arians down to your leaders on the field. And Tom's one of the best, if not the best leader that's played this game, and what he's able to do and what he is capable of in bringing others up with him is just it's evidence. I mean, you see what this team has done in just one season of change, and how different they are as compared to what they were last year. And it's exciting to watch that happen.
Last question before I let you go, my friend. Now I got to remember what my question was. 2 games this weekend. You got Green Bay, obviously, versus Tampa Bay, and you got the Bills and Chiefs. How do you see those 2 games playing out?
I would love to see a battle of the bees. I'd love to see the Bills play the Bucs in the Super Bowl, just to have a different look. Not that it's different for Tom, but it's different for the teams, I think Tampa has a great shot in Green Bay. I think that they have the offense that can control the football, that can score points. I think they're good enough defensively that they can create some fits. I mean, hey, I don't think either team is necessarily going to be stopped. I think it's going to be one of those games where, hey, the last team to have the football may be the team that wins the game. And it could be a score in the 30s for both. The other side, I love how Buffalo plays. I think they have a great football team. I love how Josh Allen is playing. I just don't know if they're good enough defensively to slow Kansas City down. They just have so many weapons. They're so explosive. They just seem to get first downs. They seem to get guys open. Mahomes, even though it didn't seem like he was quite himself last week with the injured toe and then going out with the concussion, that guy is special. He just makes things happen. He's so tough to defend out there on the field. I mean, they're kind of 2 similar teams in ways in how they come into the game, but I think Kansas City's just a stronger team overall. So I see Kansas City, and I'm hoping Tampa can pull it out up there.
All right, Jeff. Well, I want to thank you so very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us on Frankly Speaking Sports tonight. It's been a great honor having you, buddy.
You got it, Larry and Brian. Hey, sorry about the struggle at the beginning. I'm just not that tech savvy. But we figured it out, and glad we made it happen, and enjoy the game this Sunday. Hopefully it goes the way of the Bucks.
Yes, sir. All right, be safe.
Let's hear that cannon shoot off a bunch, even though they're not in Green Bay. Let's hear that cannon.
All right, man.
Even though they're not in Tampa.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Okay, guys. Take care.
And you know, Brian, you heard his. Now it's our time. Well, that was the great Jeff Garcia talking right before the playoff game versus Green Bay. What a great, great conversation we had, myself and Brian, with Jeff Garcia. Just a memorable interview. Now, when we come back from a quick station break, we have, these interviews keep getting better and better and better. I mean, it's amazing how many interviews we've done over the last year and a half. But we got another good one for you. We're going to let you hear tonight. It was with former Major League great. And a lot of the kids today hear this guy's name because of the surgery that is named after him and don't realize how great of a pitcher he really was. To have as many wins as he had in his career and 188, listen to this, no decisions, 188 is incredible. We'll hear what Tommy has to say right after this station break.
You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking Sports. I am your host, Larry Frank. And we talk about infields, and I heard somebody talking the other day about the great Cincinnati infield with Tony Perez and, I think we had Pat Darcy on the other night. Well, I know we had Pat Darcy on, and he talked about, Pete Rose at third, Dave Concepcion, Joe Morgan, Tony Perez. Well, there was another great team in the National League that had just as good and arguably better of an infielder than even those Reds of 75 and 76. And that's the Los Angeles Dodgers with Ron Say at third. Bill Russell was at short. Davey Lopes and Steve Garvey. And, Tommy John, the great, great pitcher of his time, pitched for the Dodgers, pitched for the Yankees. I had that opportunity to play with them. Well, not too long ago, we had the honor of sitting down with Tommy John and speaking to him about his career and about things going on in Major League Baseball. Here's that interview with the great and legendary Tommy John.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor, thrill, and pleasure to have on the Frankly Speaking Sports Hotline. Please welcome in former Major League pitching great Tommy John. Tommy, how you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. Well, first of all, I want to thank you very much for joining us this evening on Frankly Speaking Sports. It's a pleasure to have you.
Well, I enjoy talking sports, baseball, golf, contact swimming. I'm big into that.
Tommy, let me ask you this. First of all the fans out there, I'm sure, are concerned. Know you had a little battle with COVID out there. Want to know how you doing, how you feeling?
Well, I got over it, but I contracted an ancillary thing. It's called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And if you look it up, it paralyzes you. And I've lost a lot of the use of my legs. And, it's not, I can't walk. Well, I can walk, but I have to walk with a walker. And so it's going to take a while for me to get the strength back and get everything going. And getting ready for spring training, I would run and lift weights and do exercises to get myself for spring training. So I got to do the same thing over again.
Now, Tommy, let me ask you this. Well, we're glad to hear you're at least getting better. That's good news to hear. Your first year pitching, 1963 in the major leagues. Let me ask you this. When you were growing up, because, I know I wasn't born to 66, so I pretty much watched your entire career over those 26 years, but who were the guys when you were a kid or right before you got to the major league, or who was the pitcher that you kind of looked up to as you were a kid?
Robin Roberts. We were Philly fans in Terre Haute. We got a Philly Card Club, and I was a big Robin Roberts fan. And coincidentally, my first big league win in 1964 was against Robin Roberts.
Wow.
And I never let him forget it either.
Well, no, why would you? I'm just fixing my computer here for a minute. There we go. Okay. Now let me ask you. The date was September 6, 1963. You make your Major League Baseball career debut with the Indians. What do you remember about that day?
Well, I came in out of the bullpen, and I remember I couldn't get the bullpen gate open. And I went, oh, no. I never seen a gate with that kind of a latch and all that. Back in Terre Haute, we just had a thing that went up with the gate open and went down and it shut. So I shook it and I thought, I want to have to climb the fence in my spikes and I'll probably fall and break an arm or something. And lo and behold, the gate popped open and I went out on the field and I got my first major league appearance.
You look at your career, Tommy, and you played with some unbelievable teams. I know you played with the White Sox, the Yankees, and the Dodgers most notably. I mean, when you look at those two teams, just the Yankees and Dodgers, those are the most elite teams. Those were the teams in the 60s, whether, coming over the Dodgers from Brooklyn, of course, the history the New York Yankees have. What was it like? Talk about your experience with both those teams, and how disappointing was it to have such good teams with both those teams, yet fail to win a World Series?
Well, we finished second. I was in 4 World Series. We finished second 4 times, and we just took years not to play good baseball. But I'd say playing, I learned to pitch. I learned to pitch with the White Sox. The White Sox taught me how to pitch, and the pitching coach was a guy named Ray Berries. And he was a catcher. He was Al Lopez's pitching coach, and he taught me how to pitch. And thank God I ran into him because my first pitching coach with Cleveland was Mel Harder, and he wasn't going to do anything because he said, I don't want to mess you up. You're young, I don't want to get you messed up. Then after the next year, he whooped, and Early Wynn took over, and my wife laid in bed beside me, Cheryl, would be a better pitching coach than Early Wynn.
So let me ask you this. One of the great heroes down here were from Tampa, Florida. The name Al Lopez is all over the place. What was it like? I know you didn't get much time. I mean, you played with him a couple of years, but what was Al Lopez like?
He was very quiet. Didn't get ruffled. I remember I came in and I said, Al, can I talk to you for a minute? He said, yeah, sure, come in. And I said, I took Spanish 2 years in high school. And I listened to these guys speak Spanish. I thought the same Spanish I learned in high school. He started laughing. He said, I'm from Spain. We were Castilian. And that is a true book Spanish. Comic. He said, I don't understand them. And I did. Al was very quiet, very fatherly. But you knew how far you could go, and then you shouldn't go a step further. And the guy that was with the White Sox that I love took over after Lopez in '65 was a guy named Eddie Spanky, the Brad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When he got through managing, he took over the Texas Rangers for one game. And he quit. And he said, I can't manage these guys. And it would be like him taking over today. You got to have your basket of flowers. You got to, Eddie was tough. He was tough. He was no BS. But God, I learned how to play ball from him. He did one thing that, you got all these guys, the spin rate and the launch factor and all this. He called me in New York, and I had pitched the night before, and he said, sit down. He said, I want to talk to you, okay? He said, last night, let's go over the game. I said, okay. Nobody had ever said that to him. First batter, what did he do? I said, he grounded out. Where? 6-3. What did you throw him? Fastball. What was the count? 2-2. I had to go through my entire game, tell him what each guy hit, where they hit it, what the count was, and what the pitch was. And I had a hard time doing it. I'm pretty good at it. And the next time I pitched, he called me in the next day, and I started rattling off. And he was not a pitcher, but he taught me how to be a pitcher. And that is, remember what you threw, what you got him out with, and remember it. So when I was a pitching coach in the Expos, my minor league system, I would get my guys out the night that they pitched. They couldn't tell me what the first guy. Jesus, I don't know. I said, you just faced him 3 hours ago. Yeah, but I don't know. And I said, well, maybe if you would know. Then one time, what I did is we were in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I said, okay, guys, we're going to have a golf tournament at this club at 10 o'clock in the morning. So the guys were out there with their big throw staff bags and all that. And they get up on the first tee, and I said, oh, man, I forgot to tell you. You can only use one club and a putter. What? You can only use one club. But you want to use a driver, but you got to use a driver every shot. Well, what should I use? I don't know. It's up to you. I said, I'm going to use like a 4-iron, 5-iron. So the guys stood, and when they got done, I said, now, let me ask you this question. Did you hit every shot with that one club as hard as you could? No. Why? What? Well, there was no need to. Okay. You hit some grounders, you hit some pops, you hit some chip and runs. I said, guys, this is how you pitch. The same way. You don't have to throw every pitch as hard as you can. You got to throw it over the plate. You got to change speeds. You got to do this. That's how you pitch. Oh. And so I gave the winning just had to get a throw shot that I bought him. And I went in and I told our manager what I did. And he said, why'd you think of that? And I said, well, because when I was coming up, we had a guy in the minor leagues ask me the same thing. If you had to play golf with one club, would you hit it as hard as you could? I said, no. Well, you pitch the same way. Okay, and he was an infielder that told me that.
Right.
But, now it's show them your butt, throw it as hard as you can, and, they don't teach these guys how to pitch. They teach them or show them how to throw hard.
Right. Now, was there one pitcher, Tommy, when let's say it wasn't your day to pitch, and you were sitting in whether there was the bullpen or the dugout, was there one guy that you loved to watch pitch when you weren't pitching that you just was in awe of, that you would love to study and watch the way they do things?
Yeah, when I was with the White Sox, I watched Gary Peters, and he'd have a bullpen day, and I would go down in the bullpen and stand up like a hitter and watch his pitches and watch his curveball and his slider and his fastball. I'd watch him pitch and try to get an idea of how to pitch. Then when I went to the Dodgers, I watched Rick Brody was good at that. And I'd watch Whitey Ford when we played the Yankees. Usually Ford would pitch one of the games, and I'd watch Whitey. And, okay, I see. I would throw, if I had good stuff, and I would throw 100 pitches, I would throw 85 fastball curveballs. And all I threw was a fastball curveball. I didn't have all these other pitches. And guys said, well, how did you do that? Because I'm throwing the ball where I want to, where I'm looking. Maybe I take a little off of it, a mile or 2, 3 miles an hour, throw one a little harder. And I said, well, that's how you pitch. And I just, I love to watch pitchers that didn't have real outstanding fastballs. Because if you had a good fastball, you could just throw the ball by. A Nolan Ryan, guys like that.
Right.
I tell you who was fun to watch pitch. Bo Belinsky. Remember that name?
Not sure of that one.
Well, look it up. Bo Belinsky was with the Angels, and he was out in outer space someplace, and he used to date a girl named Mamie Van Doren. She was one of these blonde, dyed blonde, bleached blonde, and had, big boobs and a shapely figure. And they, Bo was in LA and he was going to all these parties and all this stuff. He and Mamie Van Doren. And he was out of baseball, and I'm with the White Sox. And we're at White Sox Park. And I'm in the bullpen. Why, I don't know. Somebody said, Tommy, there's a guy out here who wants to talk to you. So I go out and I said, yeah. He said, Tommy, Bo Belinsky. I said, Bo, how are you? And, oh, good. Hey, Mamie wants to say hi. Mamie, and he's waving at her, and she's waving in the back. And I said, oh, my God, this is, but Bo was a good guy. He was just out in, like I said, out in leagues. But had he played longer in the big leagues, he would not have lasted because he was a party animal.
Right. Now, let's talk about the injury. I mean, obviously today, it's unfortunate that, the kids didn't have the luxury of seeing you play like you did, but they know of you due to the injury. Talk about the injury when you first knew that you hurt your arm real bad And how reluctant, Tommy, were you to allow Dr. Joe to go ahead and do that surgery?
I was not reluctant at all because I trusted Dr. Joe. If Dr. Joe told me, Tommy, go take a big bucket and gather up all your dog poop that you have from your German Shepherd and dig a hole back at second base and put all those dog poops in it, cover it up, and your arm's going to be okay. I would have done it. I didn't doubt him an iota. That's what kind of, it was a rapport we had, was like father and son. And I trusted him explicitly. And when he said, I really don't want to do it, but there's an operation I can do, blah, blah, blah. He said, but it's never been done before. Well, I said, but I can't pitch unless I have it done, right? He said, yeah, that's about it. And I said, well, let's do it. Let's get it done. And I had faith in Dr. Frank Joe.
Were you scared to come back after the surgery? I mean, no fears of, because your first time.
I wanted to pitch.
Right.
You could pitch just for weight. Let your arm heal, exercise, get it ready, and I pitched in a ball game. Now it wasn't a big league game, but it was in the fall league down in Arizona. I pitched 7 starts in 28 days. That's one game every 4 days, and that's what was required, and that's what I did, and that's what I had to do to get myself ready. And then 1976 was my first year back, first full year in the big leagues, and I was 10-10. And it took me half the year to figure out how to pitch again. It just, you don't come back and take over where you were a year and a half ago. It doesn't work that way. You have to learn how to pitch, and it took me half a season to get that back in my head of what I had to do.
Well, it definitely worked because you ended up winning more games after your surgery, 166, I believe it was, something in that area, and you were a 3-time 20-game winner after your surgery. So obviously the surgery worked for you, no doubt about it. But let me ask you this, Tommy. There's so many more Tommy John surgeries happening today than when you played the game. Is this due, do you think, to the way the kids are more into weightlifting and the doing things incorrect with the arm to get them ready for baseball?
Well, I think they do a lot.
Hello?
It's so far ahead of what it was when I was playing. There were no MRIs back then. There was X-ray. So they did an X-ray on my elbow, and all it showed is I had an elbow, and there was blue dips in there, and it couldn't show the torn ligament. And now if the guy's heart wrong, oh my God, you got to go get it shut down, and it's just, there's more care now. There's better medicine, but it is what it is. And I think if guys would throw more, throw more, they would have fewer injuries.
Yeah, now let me ask you a question that you might understand, Tommy. Our listeners now might understand, but you know in the game as well as you do. When it comes to the pitch count, and it comes today to these pitch counts and not using pitches as long as they used to use them a long time ago. Do you think this goes beyond maybe the GM and the managers, and maybe it's more for the agents of the players to try to extend their career? So, I mean, I know it sounds weird, but the longer the career, the more they get paid.
Well, nowadays, my God, minimum salary when I played was $7,000 a year. Now it's like $500,000 or something like that. But I just think that guys, I won't say coddle. That's not the right word, but they're baby more now than what they were, and guys will go, "Oh, my arm, okay, shut it down," and then shut it down and all that. But it's I just think that guys, the injury is the injury, and it's something that needs to be taken care of. But I think a lot of times the pitchers nowadays they're into, if they get an owie, it's like, oh my God, we got to shut the guy down for 6 months or whatever. And so I think as we get more and more into it, we get more scientific and we get more of this and that. And sometimes I don't think that's really the proper way to do it. But then I'm not a doctor, so I wouldn't know. But thank God that they've got all these things now to test these kids and all this, that they can figure out what they have to do.
Is speed overrated when it comes to pitching? Whoops. We lost Tommy. Not sure what happened there. Let's try calling Tommy back. I knew his phone was going.
He got batters out. Oh, are you still up?
No, I actually lost you. I just called you back, so I'll ask you that question again.
I thought that was Donald Trump calling me. I thought, oh my God. I think that they put too much on speed. Oh, he was throwing the ball 96 miles an hour, but he lost the ball game. And guys asked me, how hard did you throw? I said, I don't know. We didn't have radar guns until after I had my elbow surgery and came back. I remember a game in spring training. I pitched 5 innings, and I pitched pretty daggone good against Houston. And Dixie Walker was our minor league batting instructor. And he came down. I pitched 5 innings, and I gave up a run or two. And I thought I pitched pretty daggone good against Houston. And he came down, and he said, "What? You better get that fastball up there a little better." I said, "What? You better get that fastball up there a little better." I said, "Better get it up there." What? "Well, you only be throwing it about 85, 86 miles an hour." And I said, "And what?" He says, "Well, you got to get it." I said, "Dixie, if you and Al Campanis can tell me what I threw before my surgery, the next time out on the mound, I'll throw it." And he looked at me and started laughing. He says, "Damned if we know." I said, "Yeah, that's right. You didn't know how hard they threw because there were no radar guns. Now you put instruments in people's hands that are ill-equipped to give reasons, and that's why you've got how hard. Harder is better. Yeah, if you get batters out. If you get batters out, that's all that matters."
Yeah. Now, a couple more questions before I let you run, Tommy. You've had no doubt about it. a resume that is very, very worthy of the Hall of Fame. How much does it bother you that you have yet to be enshrined in the Baseball Hall of Fame?
Doesn't bother me at all. Because my dad told me when I was a boy growing up, don't worry about things you have no control over. I don't have any control over it, and I think I don't want to say who it was that kept me out, but I think I know who it was that kept me out on the veterans, and we'll see down the road. I don't know. If I get in, I know how well I pitch. And I pitched pretty daggone good. Coming back from the elbow surgery, I pitched even better. And the other thing that I had 188 no decisions.
Right.
The most in baseball history. So if you put that with my 288 wins, 12 wins out of 188 no decisions. That's a pretty doable thing. But I know how well I did, and I know what I did, and I know what I didn't do, and I'm pretty daggone satisfied with how I did.
My last question, I have to ask you this. You played with some unbelievable characters, I should say. One being the great Tommy Lasorda and one being the great Billy Martin, who both left us too soon. What was it like playing for those two guys?
Well, Billy Martin didn't like me. And the feeling was mutual. I didn't care for Billy. Billy didn't like my lifestyle, and I didn't care for Billy's lifestyle. So it was, that what he thought of me, I could care less. Lasorda called me in when he took over as manager. He said, I didn't pitch well my first 3 or 4 or 5 times out. He called me in and he said, hey, get your head up. You're going to be okay. And now this was 1977. He said, we're going to win this year. And the reason we're going to win is because you're going to pitch well enough that we win. You're going to be the guy that leads us. So don't worry about what's happened. Just keep going out and trying to improve each time you go on the mound. And I looked down and I said, Tommy, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And I would have gone through hell in a gasoline suit for Tommy Lasorda. I wouldn't buy him dinner because he would eat too much. But, no, Tommy was a good guy. He was a good guy. And, we're trying to get a movie funded. And it comes out, there'll be a big thing in there on Lasorda, I can tell you that.
Well, good, because he deserves it. And, I can sit here and tell you my opinion is you definitely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but I know my word is only one word. But I do want to take the time to thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on Frankly Speaking Sports tonight.
Well, you're quite welcome. And we're going to be down in Florida next week, going down to Naples to play in a golf tournament called the Happy Gilmore, the 25th anniversary of Happy Gilmore moving. So I can't play golf, but I want to ride around with people and harass them and all that. But it's going to be fun, and we're looking forward to it.
Well, good luck to you, and stay safe, my friend. Okay.
I will. Thank you much.
All right. Bye.
That was the great Tommy John. Well, ladies and gentlemen, hope you enjoyed those memories tonight. 2 great interviews. If you happen not to see it, you can watch it on the replay. Want to thank Jeff Garcia and Tommy John both for doing those interviews with us. What great interviews. Just a reminder, We will be back this Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We will have live Butch Carter for the Toronto Raptors, head basketball coach and former NBA player, will be joining us. That's 9 p.m. Eastern Time this Thursday. From all of us here at Frankly Speaking Sports, good night.